Good morning, guys. We're going to touch on a topic today that's actually piqued the interest of a lot of young rowers, specifically transitioning from sculling into sweep oar. Very much with regards to what the body is doing, what the shoulders are doing, and what the arms are doing, and pretty much the correct positioning that you want to try and achieve in order to optimize your stroke and to reduce injury. So if we start with the absolute basics, and if you watch my video on checkpoints and the importance of them, it'll give you a lot of reference with regards to what I'm going to be saying next. But assuming that you've got a fairly good comprehension of the checkpoint positions, I think it's worth running through the different scenarios of erging, sculling, and sweeping, and basically what the hands are doing. So if you look at your erg position, checkpoint 1, okay? Your checkpoint 1 is basically there. It's a down, round, and away to checkpoint 2, and then it's a rock over to checkpoint 3. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. With regards to taking that into a sculling motion, there's going to be a slight difference, obviously, because on an erg, you're pulling along one axis. So there's a chain basically right in front of you, and you're just pulling along one line. If you look at the scull, okay, you've got two pins either side of you. So you've got two axes of rotation. So what ends up happening is that you've got these little things in your hands called oars or blades with cute little blue handles. And basically what happens is that your checkpoint 1 position ends up being here. So if you look at the arm orientation, we're no longer sitting here pulling on a straight bar. We are sitting here with our elbows slightly outwards because the handles are angled due to the pins. Now, this is obviously where the interesting stuff happens. Go back to under 14.101. As you move through your checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2 position, we are pivoting around those pins, okay, which will result in the hands meeting, and then you're needing to basically put one hand over the other. Generally, it's left over right, but everyone has their own preference. To get approximately where your checkpoint 2 position is where the hands have crossed. Now, when we move from checkpoint 2 to 3, what ends up happening is that because of the pins, we're going to have a further pivot, so the hands end up moving away from one another, and then all the way up to checkpoint 4 being the catch, the hands continue to move outwards into your catch position. Just taking it back to working through the stroke is that the hand movement is like that. So you basically want to try and orientate your arms working in line with the pins. So if you look at your forearms, at all times they're going to have a relationship with your actual pin. Now, this takes on to the next really interesting part, is sweep rowing. Did you have to do that? You just ruined my video. I was talking so nicely and then you came and snorted at my feet. Guys, this is Ruby. She just wanted to say hi, give her 2 cents on rowing. I'm just going to move Ruby on, and then I would like to start filling us in exactly what happens on the sweep side of things. I'll go and give my dog some love shortly. When it comes to sweep rowing, okay, there's another very, very obvious dynamic that exists, but one that not everyone truly thinks about when you're going to be moving from the sculling position, where you've got 2 axes of rotation, to sweep, where you've only got 1. So now what ends up happening is that you've got this oar in front of you. So let's, for the purposes of discussion, start at your checkpoint 2 position, because it's the most neutral. It's very similar to being on the erg. If we move from the checkpoint 2 to the checkpoint 1, because of the one axis of rotation, there's going to be a difference in movement and position of the hands. So if we look at it, what it's going to end up happening is that there's going to be a slight rotation of the body. Okay, so the body is slightly rotated, okay, in this orientation. So if you look at me, I'm not leaning, I'm just rotating. I'm sitting here and I'm basically just rotating. So I'm sitting on a swiveling chair. I'll move to the checkpoint 1 position, and I'm basically just sitting there with a slight rotation. Now my movement from checkpoint 1 to 2 with my slight body rotation is going to be to there, And then as I come forward, my body's going to rotate slightly into the checkpoint 3 position because I need to rotate around the pin. Okay, I'm rowing stroke side at the moment. But if you visualize that there's a pin over here, I'm working around that pin. Okay, now this is the part where it gets really, really interesting. When you move up from the finish to the catch, the position of the hips and everything below, i.e. the legs, don't change from the erg or from sculling. Absolutely everything stays the same. The only difference between sweep, sculling and the erg, or specifically sweep and then sculling and the erg, is that the body movement is there's a slight rotation on the spine. So what ends up happening is that the spine rotates slightly, but the body or the head position still stays quite upright. So if I run through those 3 scenarios again, sitting on the erg, I'm there. Look at the position of my head. It stays still. Okay, we're going to move that to sculling. There. Again, position of my head. Stays still, looking forward. Now this is the clincher. This is the super important part. Is when you are rowing sweep, watch my position of my head, pivoting around a pin on the outside. See the secret sauce here? My head doesn't move. What happens is my spine rotates. My head doesn't move. Another really important thing to watch is look at my center of mass through my body. Again through sculling. To sweep, watch my center of mass. Doesn't move. Now the way to get this right is basically to visualize your arms in relation to your shoulders. So if I'm sitting checkpoint 1 in the sweep and I straighten my arms out, I've created a rectangle. So these are all sitting at 90 degrees. As I go to checkpoint 3, everything stays relative. So I still retain this rectangle. And then obviously coming up to the catch, and I just allow my whole frame, my shoulder, to rotate in order to get up to the catch, but still keep my head in the appropriate position. Common mistakes that get made in sweep rowing, and this is generally what destroys forearms, because we don't understand the fundamentals of the rotation, what ends up happening is that we often make mistakes like leaning out at the finish, leaning in at the finish, leaning out at the catch, leaning in at the catch, and most fatally is having T-Rex forearms, especially on the inside arm at the finish, and moving into the position. So often what happens is the inside arm sits like this, which is a very poor position, because we're basically trying to row the sweep boat like a scull or like an erg. So because we are trying to work through this orientation, we're going to end up with a cocked arm on the inside. Whereas if we understand that the pivot's there, and you have to position the shoulders in order to get the arms straight, that's where you're going to get your most effective stroke. Lastly, regarding the extraction process and the movement from feather to square on the sweep blade, also just takes a little bit of thought in order to get it right. Specifically speaking, that we've now understood that the hands are going to be relative to the shoulders in terms of a nice rectangle. When you extract at your checkpoint 1 position, you want to try and weight it slightly with your outside hand. So the outside hand is going to push down to extract your ore from the water. So boom, you're going to lift the weight of the outside hand, extracts the ore. And then all you're going to do with the inside hand is basically cock it slightly in order to move it into the feathered position. So if you drop the outside hand for extraction, cock the inside hand onto the feathered position, you've basically now got, again, a neutral setup where you can go through your checkpoint 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then coming up to the catch. All you do, if you watch my inside hand, when you get to the catch is just you return it. So by the time you return it and place it, okay, you've got a good suspension. So the arms are nice and straight, and the hands are neutral. We're not like this or like this. Wrists are straight. If you look at a ruler, inside hand, okay, that's the sort of position we want. Not there, not there. Okay, so in the catch, land it, okay, and then basically execute your drive, boom, all the way to your finish, and then rinse and repeat. Drop down with the outside hand, cock with the inside hand, and go through your stroke. Boom, turning again, slight uncock of the inside hand to get the oar feathered into the water, and then executing the drive.